Welcome to DK Champ. I've selected the NFL slate, the main slate. I did a single entry for $1 and was going to show you some of the picks that I like this week. And there is, I'm sure a lot of people are going to stack this New Orleans Philly game, and I'm not really looking to stack that game. I'm looking at other options here. There are some really good matchups here, and I think there's a lot of value in the lower level if you can bring yourself down here to look. So there's some really risky GPP picks, and then there are some more definite GPP picks. I will go over the better picks first, and then if you want to get more risky and really bank on trying to win one of these tournaments, I'll show you some of those picks as well. So the one matchup that I really like is going to be Cam Newton against Detroit. And with Cam Newton, I would stack McCaffrey. And then you could come down to receiver, and let's look at, I'm not sure, the last I looked, the tight end was questionable. His name's slipping my mind right now. Greg Olsen was questionable, so he would be a guy that I would like to put in there. These receivers are all doing decently well, but there's nobody that's really jumped off the board. DJ Moore has been consistent at like getting a few targets, but he's not really producing all that well. And then Funchess, kind of the same way. He's just getting a few targets. But if you go to Greg Olsen down here at tight end, you're going to get more targets, and his questionable tag is gone. So that's good. You're going to get more targets per game with him. So this is one stack that I would like to do. I would go with these three guys, and that leaves you at 51 for the rest of your picks, and that should be plenty to kind of stack some of these other guys. So that's one stack that I like. And then I'll scroll down, and we're getting into the more risky stuff here. So I would say we'll skip here. We'll come back to that one. That's the most risky. So another stack that you could do is Prescott, which I'm a Dallas fan, and I like playing a Dallas lineup every week anyway. But if you go with Prescott, you're going to spend a lot of money on Elliott, which Prescott's really cheap, so that's helpful. And then we'll go with Amari Cooper, and he is not terribly expensive here. This could be a decent stack here. Now at tight end, you could get a little crazy and go all Dallas here, and you could look at the tight end spot, and let's see, has been coming off of an injury. This is the first game back after the injury. It was not a very good performance, but at 2,700, I think you have a pretty decent shot here of getting some value. So if I was going to do this Dallas stack, which I will do a Dallas stack, this is going to be what I'm looking at here. So we'll get rid of those. Now my most risky stack of the board, but could potentially pay off the most, is going to be Tampa Bay at the Giants. And it is, if you look here, you got Winston and Fitzpatrick are the same price. And that leads you to believe that Winston may get the start because he is ahead of Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick's going to get the nod. And going in, they're going to see how he performs. If he performs very well, he'll stay in the game and complete the game. If he throws a couple picks or has something crazy happens, then Fitzpatrick will be pulled. But I think he could potentially play the game and get us a ton of points. So when you're looking at Fitzpatrick, we'll go through the Tampa Bay receivers, and you can see here, my favorite two would be Evans and Jackson. Then if you really want to get crazy with it, you could go with Howard. Howard has a lot of chemistry with Fitzpatrick, and you can see that in the past. Last week's game was not a true test of what their little combination can do. He had 2 targets last week, and he's been looking at over 5 on average the past few weeks. So I would stick with go back to O.J. Howard this week. I think he's a good pick this week at the Giants. So that's a decent stack there. And then I'll show you one more that probably no one will own and could potentially pay off here, and that's going to be Eli at Tampa Bay. Looking at this here, I would stack him with Barkley and Odell, and this would be a decent stack. It's a lot of money up front, but I think you could get that back. I'll probably be running all of these stacks in a lineup. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And there's one more that I had on my list, and I didn't bring my list in with me. Let me see if I can think of who it is real quick. It's... see if anything rings a bell here. Yeah, it's Arizona and Oakland. You could go with a decent little stack here with Rosen. The crazy thing about this is Oakland's pretty bad, and the passing game for Arizona is pretty bad. You can go back and look at the receivers here, and there's just not a lot of value if you look. I mean, there's a chance that like Kirk may go for a touchdown or two. That's not out of the question for him. And Fitzgerald has been pretty relatively quiet for him. And you can see that the game that he exploded was against a terrible defense. Oakland is a terrible defense, so he may be a good pick. I would not put the quarterback in with him. I don't think you would get your money back out of that. So my suggestion would be to go with Fitzgerald. If you want to stack some people from this game, you would go with Fitzgerald, and then you would go with Johnson. These are two guys that I'm probably going to fit in a lot of lineups anyway. I really like these two guys. So what I'd like to do now is go through some of the positions and show you the guys I like. So obviously I like Barkley, Elliott, McCaffrey, Johnson. But then rolling on down the line here, it's all over the place. Let's see what the tag is on Denver here. I know that Freeman's back now, so that's going to take a lot away from Lindsey. And if you wanted to get a little crazy, you could throw Freeman in the lineup. But Lindsey has been the man, and it shows here. He's got some really good numbers here. So I'm gonna fade both of those guys at running back, but let's see. There's most of the guys that I'm liking are in the high end range, and I'm probably not going to play many people from this bottom section. If you see somebody down here that I'm missing, please let me know. But as I'm looking right now, there's not many injuries, and it's not a lot of guys that I'm willing to risk it when we have such good options with the top tier. So I'm really liking Barkley, Elliott, Johnson, and who's my last one? And McCaffrey. All right, so those are those guys. So let's go down to receiver. Like we said before, I like Odell. I like Evans, regardless of which one plays. No matter what quarterback plays here, Evans would be a good pick in this game. So rolling on down, let's get into some of the cheaper guys and see. I like Fitzgerald as a good option there. We said Cooper already. You could get a little crazy with Shepard. He's had a decent few games in this year, but he's not been very consistent. But if you look, there's no rhyme or reason in the games that he plays. Atlanta's got a terrible pass defense, but these other games like New Orleans, Houston, it doesn't make sense why he's been successful. So that's a little bit riskier of a play. I like Jackson. Another one that's cheap is going to be Demaryius Thomas, and he has the capability of really going off, and he's getting a lot of targets. You can see last week was not favorable for him, but he could potentially see some more here at Houston. So it's going to be a trial period. Probably not worth playing him this week, but he could potentially get some some more involvement here. So he's expected to gain more involvement in the Houston. Made his debut with 3 passes for 61 yards. He may be a good little sleeper pick for you there. We just don't know how he's going to transition. So I'll probably put him in a couple lineups. We said we like Kirk here, and those are pretty much the guys that I like. You could risk it with Beasley. I think if Dallas does get a big lead, they are going to try to blow it out because they need a statement game. Every game they played this year has been tight, and they need a statement. They're going to put a bunch of points up, and that's just my opinion on what they'll do. So we'll get out of this, and we'll go to tight end, and let's take a look. I like Olsen, like we said. Howard. Ingram is a good pick here. Ingram has been very quiet since he went out in the Week 3 game. He's just kind of all over the place also. He'd be one to keep an eye on. I don't think I'd risk him too much. Jared Cook is going to be probably a decent little option here. He'll probably be a good tight end pick. We'll go down the line a little bit, and I don't see a whole lot else down here. We said Swain from Dallas, and then the rest of these guys I might fade a little bit here. I'm not too into trying guys out here in this with as much value as we have up top. I'm just not trying to pick someone that I'm not sure of. So that's that. We'll go to defenses, and like I said before, there's a lot of value right here in this. You don't have to go with the most expensive defense in this to be successful. Arizona is a good option, but Arizona can be questionable at times, but they for 31, that's decent, but I think we have better picks down here. Carolina at Detroit is probably going to be my most played defense. We'll scroll on down and take a look here. So you could play it a couple different ways. If you wanted to, hope for failure on Tampa Bay, you could go with the Giants here. I wouldn't stack them against each other by any means, but they do have this option here to be able to shut out Tampa Bay and get a lot of points off defense. I'll probably play them in a couple lineups. Also, the Buccaneers. I mean, with a defense that averages 2.9, it's tough to look at. But going against New York, if you're not playing those guys in your stack, you could go with them. And then basically the same thing, like we said with the Giants. I wouldn't play them against each other. Scrolling on down, these other games are a little bit questionable with this Saints and Eagles game. I wouldn't mess with that one. Jacksonville at Pitt, I wouldn't mess with that one too much. Anytime you got a really good quarterback, I don't like to play the defense against them. I like to go with the guys that have young quarterbacks or quarterbacks that are filling in. And with that being said, I'm liking the Panthers, and I'm liking the Cardinals the most, and I'll probably have the Panthers in about 80% of my lineups against Detroit. And they've been kind of hit or miss all year, but I think they'll do a decent job. They'll at least get 7-8 points here, and I think they'll do a pretty good job. So let me know what you think on your picks. I'm going to submit those lineups, and I'll probably play most of them in single entry games. I'll put in throughout time, and as they keep posting the single entry games, I'll keep posting in them. And that's kind of my plan for this week, is to play several single entries that are from $1 to $3 and see what we can get on it. So I hope you all do well this week, and good luck to you. And I'll be posting some of the showdown matchups here throughout the weekend. So thanks for watching.